Welcome to Battle Base Beta and For the Win number 30. Now this is the winner's bracket best of 5. One of these players will be advancing on to the grand final. In the southern position, the yellow Soviet player, this is Dimon. And in the northern of these two spawn positions, our purple Empire player, this is Jeromo. Representing teammates. Like I said, this is from For the Win number 30, but for those of you on YouTube, because I will be uploading this VOD there, I'm live streaming this now on Twitch, just to make up for the fact that I missed these games yesterday. I could not cast them live, just because of some of the performance issues that I was having, and as a kind of apology or a makeup, or some sort of a responsive measure, I have decided to cast these games from replays, which means the players got to play them without someone observing, and at the end of the day, it's basically the same. So we do have, I wasn't actually paying too much attention to what Dimon is doing. He did open, probably double racks, but he was able to shut down any sort of man spam coming out from Jeromo. Super Reactor is going to be coming up rather quickly for Dimon. He's going to be going directly into Tier 2 before that War Factory. On the other hand, we do have the Mecha Bay going to be on the high ground for Jeromo. He did, of course, go for just double refinery. He wasn't going triple refinery or anything like that. And, of course, Battle Base Beta, if this was a different matchup, the center might have been contested a little bit more, but in this particular case, conscripts are just too cost-effective. Dimon going to be coming in for the scout. We'll be able to get a pretty good idea of what his opponent is doing, but, I mean, he's already got a pretty fair idea. First couple of Tengus going to be popping on out, and of course the burst drone is going to be potentially looking for those little openings just to try to be annoying, potentially latching onto a harvester. War Factory is now down, and of course hammer tanks can begin to be produced, as the terror drone is also going to be looking for some openings and some weaknesses. Harvesters actually are a bit exposed, not tremendously so, and of course this guy up here has the repairs super close by with that Mecha Bay, so he doesn't really have to worry about any sort of terror drone harass really being that effective. Perhaps the Terror Drone was hoping the third expansion would have been out on the water, where it would have been a bit more vulnerable. Third refinery going to be coming up for Dimon. Of course, it is, a couple of minutes delayed behind that of the refinery of Jeromo. Terror Drone does get sniped as well. That harassment opportunity shut down by Jeromo. He's just, a little bit too on top of things to let an easy harvester snipe happen. MCB getting tagged by that burst drone. We'll keep an eye on it. Make sure that he knows exactly where it's going, if it's pushing out into the middle of the map, or if it's just, maybe going for a relatively quick fourth expansion, something like that. Dimon has also done a pretty good job of splitting himself up across this map. Of course, with conscripts being very cheap, it doesn't cost much to go ahead and go for that, go for the split around the map so you get that extra vision. You can keep an eye on everything that your opponent is doing, and then it's much harder for your opponent to actually be able to move out and be able to do anything with you being right there. Burst drone will be getting cleaned up. Bullfrogs here just playing guard in case they need to. And of course, conscripts clearing out the buildings, easy peasy. We'll start working on that oil derrick. Walls starting to come down for Jeromo, extending them out, going to be giving him a little bit of defense and potentially also funneling Dimon's units when the attack eventually comes. But Dimon doesn't exactly have a terrifying force. He should be able to clear out these buildings without too much trouble, but will he be able to push out and do anything more than that? A couple of buildings, again, getting cleared by those Molotov cocktails. And Jeromo, he just needs to buy some time, get out some reinforcements, and these Bullfrogs will be able to take some nice shots at these Tengus, be able to do some damage to them. Actually cleans one of them up, and now Jeromo's actually going to have to kind of work his way through this little bit of a choke point. Oh, no! The Tank Buster doesn't actually get the kill on the Terror Drone. Terror Drone will be able to lock down one of the Tsunami Tanks. The other one will be forced to pull back and just kind of wait it out with his buddies. Jeromo re-walls, doesn't want to let Dimon in just quite yet. And again, this is going to be forcing Dimon up and over into a bit of a meat grinder with all of these units right here. However, Bear does get a nice roar off. Shouldn't be too effective just because Imperial Warriors are not necessarily an essential part of this unit composition. Tsunami Tank's going to be the far more important unit here. And Jeromo continuing to drop down wall after wall. Again, buying himself more time. Dimon on the back foot. I'm not actually sure what his follow-up is going to be, exactly where his MCV is. For now, he's just pumping a lot more hammer tanks, trying to push forward, trying to make something happen. Tsunami Tank's finally going to be breaking out, and there's a few too many Tsunami Tanks for even a good Soviet player with Micro to use just a single Terror Drone to lock down. He should be able to lock down a couple of them at any given time, but now that the Terror Drone is down, these hammer tanks kind of are outclassed and outmatched. They're, of course, outgunned completely by the Tsunami Tanks, and even that Chopper VX could potentially get in on the fight if the Bullfrogs get pushed a bit too far back. Tsunami Tanks do need to be careful as reinforcements start to come in for Dimon. However, Tank Busters are going to be utilized here, and point defense drones will help these guys survive a fair bit longer as they are going to be pushing forward. Again, Bullfrogs may be extending a little bit too far as they do get pushed away, and the Tsunami Tanks remain strong. They stand forward against the tide of Soviet. And Jeromo, with basically a complete surround on some of these hammer tanks, will be able to eliminate them really quite quickly. Pushing back Dimon ever further, ever further. Two last Tsunami Tanks should be going down momentarily. No, the Terror Drone does lock down one of the Tsunami Tanks, which means one of the hammer tanks will be able to escape, even though it is very low on HP. And actually, this one Tesla Trooper may be able to lock down a couple of these tanks if they push a little bit too far forward. However, one of the Imperial Warriors, both of the Imperial Warriors end up going down. And of course, Dimon doesn't have any actual units to hold off the attack. However, Tesla Troopers are good. They aren't just quite that good. And game number 2 takes us to Infinity Isle, where spawning on the left side, our yellow Soviet player who is down 0-1 in this best of 5. He needs your cheers. This is Dimon. While on the right side, our purple Empire player representing teammates, he is Jeromo. Or Jeromo, depending on what you prefer. Dimon versus Jeromo. Dimon, one of those players who hasn't necessarily been around for a super long time, at least not so much in the competitive scene. He is pretty darn good, and of course he does play quite a bit. He's just, maybe not quite as experienced or has been quite around as long as Jeromo. Not as far as I know, at least. Triple Refinery Opener going to be coming out from Jeromo. He did get double dojo. I don't think he went triple dojo. That would probably be just a bit excessive, but of course he wants to get that oil derrick. Potentially get some crushes if he can. Hey, killing off a bear, not bad. Of course, if he can kill off a couple more bears or eliminate flak troopers, then these dojos will be more worth it. But, of course, dojos generally don't do a pretty good job of actually killing off a lot of these units. With no conscripts, Dimon can't actually clean out that building just yet. Is going to be potentially able to force the destruction of this oil derrick. And let's take a quick look at what Dimon was doing. He opened double refinery, it looks like, into the war factory. And he's going to be following up with a quick tier 2 before that third refinery. However, he is going to be heading out with the Terror Drone. And of course, that means that this refinery is going to be exposed. He does have an opportunity to go ahead and infect that harvester. Wow, that flak trooper just got completely destroyed there. Won't quite be able to make it happen, won't quite be able to make it home to his family. Instead, he will go down. Mecha Bay placed near the back of the base for Jeromo. Really just looking to kind of, I guess, hold down these 3 refineries for now. He's going to be able to clean up one of the scouts, but in the north, there's that Terror Drone from before. Is going to be going for the Stasis Ray on that ore collector. Might just go for the infect as well, since he is close enough, and Jeromo hasn't actually switched into the gun mode to clean up that Terror Drone early enough. He just wasn't quite able to get it Not really paying enough attention, I guess. But, oh, he is able to switch into gun mode. He just actually isn't able to target down that Terror Drone. Is going to allow the Terror Drone to infect him. But actually, with this Mecha Bay being pretty darn close, that Harvester should end up surviving. As goodbye, Terror Drone. The Bear is going to be pushing forward. Tsunami Tank is pulled up for the response. Activates the Nano Deflectors. Is going to be pushing that little group of bears away. Terror Drone heading along the north side once again as Dimon is going to be establishing a third expansion. Rax getting dropped as well. Going to be beefing up his army with a few extra infantry. Now, potentially, Dimon will be looking to go into Twin Blades as well. They can be useful, although against a Empire player who's going pretty heavy into either Tengus or Strikers, it can be difficult to make Twin Blades actually work. Tengus do a pretty good job of hunting them down. Tengu is going to be going for the kill on this Terror Drone. However, the Terror Drone with that Stasis Ray will be able to escape, forcing that Tengu. Oh, it's going to be a little bit of a close one as the Harvester is not actually able to get the kill. And this Harvester may have been a little bit hurt from earlier in the center of the map, though. These two guys going to be looking at each other, not quite going to be engaging just yet. And actually, with these tank busters, Jeromo should have the better army, should be able to push away these units without too much of a problem. Harvester does end up going down for Jeromo. He's not actually able to keep that alive. He's actually already halfway done with his next Harvester, so he shouldn't lose that much mining time. We'll be losing a little bit, but not a super ton of mining time. And another Terror Drone heading along the north side. This harass is going to become pretty darn effective. Imperial Warrior going to be pushing forward, potentially going to be trying to take down that Terror Drone, but the MCV is getting trapped out in the open, and with Bullfrogs right here, these Strikers may have to sacrifice themselves if they actually want to go for that Terror Drone and kill it off. At the same time, they're just going to be going for the Bullfrog as the Tengu is able to clean up that Terror Drone without too much trouble. However, both of the Strikers do go down on the front lines. The hammer tanks pushing forward, Tesla troopers being used as well, being mixed in with this army composition, similar to the last game, except in this game they might actually see some action. They might actually be utilized by Dimon. Deploys his MCV, is actually going to be dropping Iraqs almost directly onto the front line, getting reinforcements out basically instantaneously into the base of Jeromo. And Jeromo does need to be careful. He doesn't have a super easy way to kill off these Tesla troopers. The best thing he has is these Mecha Tengus, but if these hammer tanks were actually in gun mode, they'd clean up the Tengus even more quickly. As the MCV gets locked down there by one of the Tesla troopers, the other Tesla trooper is going to be just kind of standing guard next to these hammer tanks. Not going to be, oh, that Imperial Warrior going for the charge, not actually able to get anything done as the hammer tank does go for the nice crush move there. And one Terror Drone plus the actual Tesla Trooper is going to be a powerful combo and actually locking down these mechanical units heading out for Jeromo. Is Jeromo actually going to be able to break this contain as the assault does continue? Tank busters are not, of course, here to help deal with these hammer tanks. It's just down to the tsunami tanks, which means they have to be careful about where they engage because of the Terror Drone and the Tesla Troopers. Oh, Tengu might be able to get some nice shots off on the Terror Drone. Not quite able to make it happen to finish off the Terror Drone. However, the hammer tanks are getting locked down and eaten up by the hammer tank numbers, which are just better. And as individual units continually get bled off there, that is going to be the end of the game. Jeromo will be dropping game number 2, and Dimon evens the score up 1-1. All right, welcome to game number 3, Cabana Republic being the map, and the winner's bracket finals best of 5 heating up between these two players. On the left side, the man, the Purple Empire Hope from Teammates, this is Jeromo. On the right side, our yellow Soviet Hope representing himself, he is Dimon. And that's right, it's a winner's bracket final with no Allied play in it. But that's, of course, because not a lot of Allied players actually signed up for the tournament, and none of the top Allied players signed up for the event. Which, of course, why the representation is probably affected there. So with a 1-1 score, both of these guys are in a good position to take this series, and they've both been playing pretty well recently. However, they both have proven that this series could definitely go either way. It wasn't exactly... I mean, Dimon really pushed hard in that last game, so maybe if he wouldn't have pushed so hard quite so early, you know, if it would have gone a bit more macro and a bit more late game, it could have turned out differently. But still, the games feel pretty even overall, and it does feel like these two guys are evenly matched. 1 refinery into War Factory, and actually, is that 2 engineers? Yeah, that's going to be 2 engineers coming out for Dimon. Loads one of them up into the Bullfrog. We'll be able to most likely capture that oil derrick. And he also sent out a terror drone somewhere. Okay, that's just a bear on the left side there. The terror drone instead is going to be camping out next to the dojo. May actually end up going for the infect on the dojo. However, this Tengu should be able to chase away this terror drone if he gets the opportunity. As you can see, he does land far enough away so that the terror drone won't get an immediate infect. And Dimon is just like, all right, well, if I can't get an infect on the Tengu, we'll just go for an infect on the dojo. And that dojo, I mean, he's kind of running away. Don't know if he really needs to be running away right now if Jeromo wants to kill off that terror drone. Immediately into Tier 2 before the expand, Dimon is going to be going for that more one-base play for now. Jeromo, on the other hand, he went Tier 2 pretty quick as well. So both of these guys go in Tier 2 relatively quickly on Cabana Republic. And actually, they do decide to swap out their oil derricks. They think the grass is indeed greener on the other side. Will it end up being? I don't actually know. But in this case, they're going to try it out. Terror drone could go ahead and head on south. Both of these harvesters are, of course, walled in with the Mecha Bay there. Shouldn't present too much of a problem. Tengu transforms, snipes the terror drone really quite nicely. The dog is also going to be killed off as well. Just a minor annoyance there for Dimon. Isn't going to have that scouting intel, but he can have a pretty good idea of when the third expansion is being taken by his opponent and when Jeromo is going to be getting that next stage of economy up and running. Dimon, at the same time, moving out with his own MCV, looking to take a third refinery of his own, sniping down the oil derrick of his opponent. We'll have to see if Jeromo decides to respond in kind, since Dimon's oil derrick is on Jeromo's half of the map. Center of the map, and anytime there's a lot of buildings, it's pretty easy for the Soviet player to control them. In this particular case, Jeromo hasn't been cleaned out just yet, and Dimon is actually going to be, I guess, jumping into that building. I'm not actually sure why he decided to do that. Maybe he just didn't want to risk that poor conscript losing his life if the units jumped out of the building. And Terror Drone should be able to escape here with the Stasis Ray. We'll be able to stop that Tengu from actually giving chase. And I mean, if he would have left a little bit earlier, then he probably could have escaped without no problem. Actually, he will respond nicely, so he can just go ahead and escape on out of there anyways. If he wasn't, of course, paying attention, he wouldn't quite be able to do anything about that Terror Drone. Terror Drone will end up turning around. Jeromo has already pulled his forces south, is going to be evacuating that area. And actually, it looks like this Imperial Warrior was able to clean up another Terror Drone anyways. Just being a little bit annoying there as Chopper VXs clear out the oil derrick in the middle of the map. And unfortunately for Dimon, Jeromo still does control those little buildings. Chopper VX is being pulled up to the high ground, trying to escape away from the Bullfrogs. 2 Tsunami tanks being mixed in as well. And actually, Tier 3 Empire will eventually be on the way for Jeromo. Ore Refinery as well being packed along. Of course, that third refinery being up for both players for a little while. In this particular case, the airfield will be taken by Dimon. He is going to be going for a few aircraft. As long as he packs along either MiGs or Bullfrogs to help protect these Twin Blades, then he should be safe against the majority of the Empire threats. Hammer tanks going to be staging up. And of course, on these maps with a lot of civilian structures, we will see Soviet players just use the civilian structures as their mobile repair unit. They get their hammer tanks some free repairs, and then of course they can head into the next battle with confidence. Unfortunately for Jeromo, he's going to be losing a fair number of these infantry, and there's not really a whole lot that he can do about it. With MiG standing by, guarding these Twin Blades, there's not going to be an easy way to break this attack. And that just means that money that he spent early on getting that infantry out there isn't all that useful, as this striker is going to be getting trapped down. That's a bit unfortunate, but this one bullfrog could actually be targeted down if all of these strikers decided to focus in on it. But with only one striker in good control, well, one striker that can actually lift up into the air, then the bullfrog may be able to just deal with this stuff fine. Tsunami tanks do roll in, and they're getting lots of free shots off on these hammer tanks. Bullfrog forced to pull back as well. And now this one hammer tank is actually a little bit trapped here. However, he may be rescued a little bit later by his friends. Potentially, actually, if a Twin Blade could get a good angle on this, like maybe if the hammer tank drove over here, he could be picked up and saved, kept from dying, as two Twin Blades are actually in the north. They're not really in position to help out that hammer tank. He does use whatever that corrosive ability is, where you basically sacrifice a unit and turn it into a pile of toxins, which is, as it turns out, sometimes a pretty good way to go. MiGs are out in force in support of these Twin Blades. 4 MiGs and really not that many Twin Blades to match up with them, as more Twin Blades are being pumped out by Dimon. He is going a bit Twin Blade heavy. Tier 3 has finished up. We'll have to see if Terror Drones end up locking down those expensive high-tech units and really making them all that useful, or not allowing them to be very useful. Barracks has been established in the middle of the map, as well as that 4th refinery for Dimon. And is that a naval yard? Yes, it is. Eventually, we may be seeing Shogun battleships. For now, not quite, but Terror Drone does not manage to get the infect, gets sniped completely there, and Dimon is going to need some serious firepower to be able to stop this attack. His Air Force is in the south, and, well, Terror Drones are going to be the choice, the name of the game, as this one Striker VX is going to be running backwards, trying to get away from his buddy so that the Terror Drone doesn't actually get a chance to infect once more. Tengu's getting cleaned up, and Bullfrogs can escape out onto the water, as Twin Blades are going to be coming up and able to snipe down one of the strikers. But of course, King Onis can tank quite a bit from Twin Blades, as there's not a whole lot of anti-air left here, which means Dimon can potentially clean up this entire attack without losing all that much else. Terror Drone's going to be cleaning up with a Tsunami tank, while the King Oni almost gets trapped but does manage to escape. Nice move, throwing a couple of infantry inside of those structures just to be able to do that extra bit of damage. Twin Blades being split and then apparently regrouped there, as this King Oni is just completely allowed to do whatever he wants. There should be a Terror Drone. I thought there was a Terror Drone. No, there's 2 Terror Drones. They are a little bit further away than I would have thought, but in this particular case, one of them is going to go for the effect eventually, as they did manage to get it. But Wave Force Artillery, I don't remember if you have to like control-click through the unit and fire on the ground behind them, or if you just fire on the unit itself. I don't actually remember what the trick is for clearing up those Terror Drones. It's kind of unfortunate that Dimon didn't use the Terror Drones. Oh, he just trashes a couple of hammer tanks. Wow, he really needs cash. He's transitioning out of his hammer tanks and into something else. He's just going straight up Terror Drones, no Twin Blades, and he's already, I mean, he's got 4 refineries, although only 3 of them are harvesting. It's not necessarily like he's only on 1 refinery or something like that. Kind of the nice thing to have seen would have been if the Terror Drones would have just locked down some of the units and held them in position for the Twin Blades to really deal with. That's kind of what they maybe end up going for here, as one of the strikers does go down. Wave Force Artillery are getting stuck in position, which means these King Onis and the strikers aren't necessarily going to be able to get saved here from the Terror Drones. The Terror Drones are just going to continue doing more and more damage, and this Wave Force Artillery doesn't actually get the shot off to clear out that striker, which means these Terror Drones can unleash more havoc, potentially. No, he pulls back as Jeromo makes use of the Imperial Warriors inside of that structure. The King Oni has gone down, and the MCV for now will escape, as these Terror Drones manage to get the infect on the Wave Force Artillery and lock it down. I mean, really, unless there's a second Wave Force Artillery that's pretty close, that guy has no hope of actually doing anything. He will... Oh, you can actually fire on yourself. Now that I didn't know. I didn't know that you could actually clear a unit out of itself with itself, because there's a couple of different ways, like alternate ways for clearing out units. I believe the Dolphin, like Sonic Attack, And then the Stingray as well allow you to do that with their abilities. And then I think Magnetic Satellite either used to, or maybe it does now. I don't quite remember. But Twin Blades, only 5 of them really here in force, and the Yari mini-sub has been dealt with, which is quite nice for Dimon, able to clean that up. Naval Yard, not really around anymore, which means the naval threats will subside for Dimon. He won't have to worry about those guys anymore. Could go ahead and, well, he's already got this Harvester back online. Terror Drone heading south. I'm not sure how much he's actually going to be able to accomplish just because the Mecha Bay is in the main base. Potentially, if he heads all the way around in the north, he'll be a little bit sad to realize that there aren't actually any refineries here, which is a bit of a problem for him. Twin Blade's starting to clear out the buildings, and I'm not actually sure what the big transition was for, well, I guess it was into infantry for Dimon. I mean, he cleared out a lot of his hammer tanks. It's not like he needed to clear supply or anything like that. Twin Blade's going to be coming in, dropping their missiles, and then getting on out of there. Of course, they don't want to stick around too long, but I believe there is a crusher crane somewhere on the map. Okay, yeah, it's over near that kind of third, well, I guess fourth refinery location. As the MCV is still here, I'm not actually sure what that engineer was from, as Crusher Crane will be able to provide some nice repairs to those Twin Blades. And for a second, I wasn't sure if he was going to just go ahead and crush that MCV into the Crusher Crane. Might want to go ahead and get it repaired up if he's going to end up doing that. I think you still get value based on how alive the unit is. Maybe you don't. Do you get the same value with the Crusher Crane? Irregardless of, or not irregardless, but regardless of the health of the unit? You might actually. I don't remember, because of course if you sell off a building that's almost dead, you get less cash than if it was at full HP. But hammer tanks have been rebuilt, and actually these strikers, they do not want to step too far forward, because if there's no anti-air, Twin Blades could wreak absolute havoc upon the army. This one Defender Corps isn't quite going to be enough. However, the splash damage is going to be nice and will be enough to clean up one of the Twin Blades. Almost eliminates a second Twin Blade as well. And of course, the one Striker turret won't be enough to clean up all of them. But Dimon at the last second there rearranging his Twin Blade so the splash damage didn't get a twofer, and didn't allow that turret to be way more cost effective than it should have been. Instant Dojo will most likely be targeted next now that the Harvester is dead, just in case. Or actually, I guess if that Instant Dojo isn't tier 3, then it can't actually produce anything that's very useful against Twin Blades. However, Eureka Omega would be pretty sick to see in this game by Jeromo. Hammer tanks are in pretty healthy numbers, but the Tesla Troopers are more what I'm interested in, as the Hammer tanks are going to be pushing forward, going for the big crushes and trying to eliminate as many of these targets as they can, crushing a lot of the infantry and eliminating a lot of the problems that Dimon would have with this largely infantry-based composition, as Terror Drones lock down the King Onis, allowing really the Wave Force Artillery to be the only free unit for Jeromo, and Dimon with a complete surround of these units, crushing every single Empire attacking unit. And the Wave Force Artillery being the last thing alive, it goes down, handing away that veterancy to the hammer tanks. And with the third refinery shut down, a fourth refinery never actually constructed by Jeromo, he's going to have, or never actually operational for very long, he's going to have a hard time making a serious comeback as he does leave the game there. And Jeromo will drop the second point of this series. And by that, I really just mean that Dimon goes up 2-1 against Jeromo. That was a weird way to put it, but that will do it for game number 3. Let's jump into game number 4. And game number 4 takes us to Temple Prime, where on the left side, our Purple Empire player, who is down 1-2, representing teammates, this is Jeromo. And on the right side, his opponent, representing himself and the Soviet players everywhere, this is Dimon. Going to be going for that racks first. Some players do like to go for double racks and then really pump infantry down to one side of Temple Prime. Then you can basically be guaranteed to secure the oil derrick, and sometimes you can push on forward and, you know, maybe clear out infantry here and really cause your opponent to waste a lot of cash. And then Quad Dojo is not uncommon on this map just because you can potentially secure both of the oil derricks that way and crush infantry. In this particular case, Dimon is going to be able to push away the dojo, and then the engineer should be along shortly. Ah, there it is. Engineer should be along shortly to help deal with this stuff. And goodbye, both of the flak troopers, so that dojo was worth it. There's the capture for Dimon. Capture should be coming along relatively shortly for Jeromo. One dojo is being sold off. He did go double refinery. He's not going trip ref immediately, but it was double refinery into super reactor for Dimon. He's not going to be doing anything too crazy just yet. Imperial Warriors pressing forward on all fronts of the map through the middle, and of course, you can take this building against Soviets, but, well, I don't know that it'll actually be yours for very long. Although the micro is pretty nice from Jeromo, jumping in and out of those buildings, able to cut himself down a couple of conscripts, and able to save the building, so nice control from Jeromo, able to actually out-control his opponent and utilize the, quite frankly, superior units that he has, because Imperial Warriors are just better than conscripts in almost every situation. And nice recap of that oil derrick. Will be able to clean that up for himself. And these Imperial Warriors, I guess they're just going to go for it. They're saying YOLO. They want this building, and they want Jeromo to be able to win. But, of course, Jeromo, he's at match point. This is the winner's bracket finals best of 5, which means whoever loses here goes to the lower bracket. Whoever wins gets a slot into the grand finals. But Jeromo does still have that opportunity. It's match point, and Dimon has a little bit of wiggle room. He can lose a game before he's in the danger zone. But it's, of course, not quite as bad as being down 2 or 0-2 in this sort of situation. You don't have to make a perfect 3-game comeback for Jeromo. Hammertech moving forward will be able to target down that oil derrick a little bit. And Jeromo, for now, could be just teching up on his Mecha Bay. Hasn't necessarily produced a huge amount of units. I think he produced, like, what, 2 Tengus or 1 Tengu? I mean, definitely 1, but the other one might be around somewhere. He's going for the harass in the north, and this flak trooper doing a pretty healthy amount of damage to the Tengu. Not, of course, going to be able to take it out, but actually going to be able to get some nice shots in on the ore collector before the adaptive armor is activated. Little bits of damage here and there. Shouldn't be too big of a deal for our Soviet player. Oil derrick getting targeted down. That hammer tank really should finish the job at this point. If you're going to get it that low, then you might as well go all the way and finish the oil derrick off, as it does explode, and the third refinery being established by Dimon. Now, Jeromo moving his MCV to the high ground. Actually, the Stair Drone will get a nice infect on that Tengu, and even if he transforms, I don't know if he'll have enough time to get all the way across the map to the Mecha Bay, because the Mecha Bay is not positioned in a very forward spot. It is into Tier 2 for Jeromo. And did he actually splash? He splashed that War Factory a little bit just due to the honorable discharge. Refinery is now up, but high ground assaults are a thing on this map. And, of course, Tank Buster is going to be able to do some pretty good damage. Is there a whole lot of anti-air here? Because Bullfrogs can be utilized, but they might just be taken out by the Tank Busters. The Bears need to be produced to help deal with these infantry, but they won't be able to stop the Strikers, which are having absolutely free reign. Bullfrogs are nowhere to be seen. One is trying to come in from the north, but it is maybe going to be getting cut off by infantry, and it doesn't even matter as the MCV gets completely locked down there, and the infantry have been pushed back for now, but the Bullfrog is going to be getting cleaned up. One Bullfrog against those 3 Strikers just not going to be working very well, and with no flak trooper support, this Rax is going to be going down. Bullfrog finally rolls up to the party, but is a little bit late, as one of the Strikers just transforms away to safety. And these Strikers, they can do a little bit of poke damage here and there. They may actually end up flying over and trying to get a better angle on some of these more important structures over here where they're not defended by the flak troopers inside of the buildings. Bullfrogs are going to be getting pushed away, but really, that conscript or that Imperial Warrior doesn't pose too much of a threat. Dimon going to be losing one of his oil derricks. The other one did get recaptured, and then he had to kill it off himself, though. So now both of the oil derricks have been cleaned up, and Tank Busters mixed in with these tsunami tanks is going to make this position pretty difficult to defend, or pretty difficult to break for our Soviet player, Dimon. He's not quite going to be able to just waltz in there. However, this bear could potentially get a roar off. I mean, he doesn't really do all that much if he's dead. So he is not going to be able to do anything useful. Instead, he just gets cleaned up by the Imperial Warrior, and a veterancy heroic status does get passed along to that Tank Buster. A nice move for Jeromo, sniping down the MCV, the racks, and that ore refinery, all from the high ground, making good use of the terrain on this map. And in this case, he is going to be able to push away these units. Tsunami tanks taking the advantage, trying to snipe down this hammer tank, which is very low on HP, but won't quite be able to get it just yet. This one tsunami tank has overstated as well, but not quite going to be able to do all that much just yet. Hammer tanks pushing forward really to their doom. If they can get absolute miracle crushes, then potentially they could do some damage, but again, it's just quite a few tank busters here, and actually the micro from Jeromo, like, literally could not be worse. I guess he's controlling somewhere else on the map, but even so, he just let all of those tank busters get absolutely crushed with no response at all. He didn't send them down into spider holes. He did nothing like that. And of course, the Terror Drone was holding down that tsunami tank, so it couldn't even body block for those tank busters, just allowing them to be completely shut down. Ore Collector, of course, going for that long-distance harvesting power, and Dimon has stabilized. He's pushed back the enemy, but he's pretty much going to be stuck on those two refineries for quite some time. If he wants to get on an MCV, he can, but that's a lot of cash he has to invest and a lot of locked up time for this war factory where he's just going to be producing nothing. I feel like Jeromo maybe needs to try to exploit some of the units a little bit more. He potentially could be swinging around here, doing a bit of damage to those units, or going for some multi-pronged attack. Tsunami tanks on one side and strikers on the other, trying to force Dimon to split up his very limited units and, defend a lot with very little. There's going to be the tsunami tank going for the heal, and Dimon has been defeated. He just decides it's not even worth playing out those last couple of minutes, those last couple of engagements, and Jeromo is going to be taking this score up to 2-2 and is going to be evening things out in this series, taking us to the ace match for the winner's bracket finals. Who will be the one to take it all? Who will be the one to head to the grand final? Let's find out in game number 5. And that takes us to Fire Island for game number 5, the ace match, the final one of the winner's bracket finals. In the southern position, our Purple Empire player representing teammates, this is Jeromo. Evening things up 2-2. And in our northern position, our yellow Soviet, representing himself, the Soviet Hope, this is Dimon. Just opening up that single racks, not doing anything too crazy. He's going to be going for the Northern Oil Derrick. Of course, this is not the 1.12.2 fixed version of Fire Island. So there is still the quote-unquote magic spot in the south for Empire players. They do have that easy capture of the Oil Derrick if they want. Bear's going to be heading out, clearing up the Imperial Warriors before the Engineer goes in for the Oil Derrick. That one Imperial Warrior, he could hope against hope to kill himself an Engineer, but he's never going to be able to get it. And both of the players going to be able to grab their Oil Derricks. Easy peasy. Not too much of a surprise there. MCV already on the move for Jeromo. I guess it's over on the left side as he does drop out the Mecha Bay. And of course, with both of his harvesters exposed, we're going to have to keep an eye if there's any Terror Drone harassment that may end up coming back to bite him in the butt. Of course, for now, it's not too bad because the Mecha Bay isn't that far away, but for our Empire player, he's going to need to keep an eye on that. One extra dojo just to grab back this Oil Derrick. However, the sickle is going to be delaying that and potentially stopping it from happening. He might have to wait for Tengu's support or something like that, as he doesn't actually have any tank busters mixed in here. Bears potentially are going to be brought over, but with 2 sickles, these units won't really have too much trouble cleaning up the Imperial Warriors, unless they end up getting, like, completely trapped Aha, now that Tengu is here, he's got a bit more firepower to help deal with these sickles. Imperial Warriors getting targeted down one after another. And these sickles, I'm not actually sure who wins in a straight-up fight between one sickle and one Tengu. I think the Tengu wins, but I'm not 100% sure. Flak Troopers trying to get in on the action, trying to get a little bit of damage done on this Tengu, but no, won't be able to do that. However, nice moves there from Dimon, trying to save as many of his Flak Troopers as he can. And this one Tengu is getting pretty dangerously low on HP. One Flak Trooper goes down before that Imperial Warrior actually does die. And there's the transform for that Jet Tengu to escape. And I guess it's maybe all worth it for Jeromo. It depends on how long he ends up keeping up this oil derrick, because he did lose quite a few Imperial Warriors. Third refinery is going to be markedly faster for Dimon than for our Empire player. He is starting to split off Tengus right and left, potentially going in for some harassment. But, I mean, adaptive armor really puts a lot of Empire players off from harassing very much. And in some cases, you're able to escape with your Tengus, absolutely no problems. But if you end up losing too many of those Tengus, then it's just not really worth it. Now, the nice thing is Honorable Discharge allows you to do the damage no matter what, but it's, again, not that much damage versus adaptive armor. Or when you get surrounded like that and kind of pushed a bit further away than you would like, it's no damage at all. So Jeromo trading away, I mean, 3 so far of these Tengus are most likely going to be going down, and these harvesters are still operational. They have lost a fair bit of mining time, and that one is in that heavy damage mode, so he is going to be harvesting slower. But overall, I mean, trading out 3 Tengus is not exactly efficient when you don't kill anything off, and Dimon is even going to be getting the repairs on that harvester, healing it back up to full HP. Eventually, it'll take him some time, but he will be able to do that. Nice control by Jeromo. He's paying attention. And that's one of those things. Is it difficult to switch your harvester over into the correct mode to kill off the Terror Drone? No, it's not difficult to do, but it's just one of those things that if you're a lower level player, you're going to find it hard to actually, you know, maintain focus and do those things all the time. And again, these Tengus just trying to get as much damage done as possible, making use of that Honorable Discharge almost every time. Terror Drone does get a better positioning there, and this harvester should be sent over for some repairs until he's at least back up to enough HP to be able to just harvest freely and at a fast rate. Fourth refinery going to be on the way. It gets scouted basically immediately by Jeromo. He's going to be knowing that soon he will be directly behind economically, because right now they're on relatively even footing. Of course, the refinery was a bit earlier for Dimon, but he also did lose a fair bit of mining time, and technically he still is losing mining time as this harvester is not getting back to work as quickly as it could, and with those repairs, it is off the line for quite some time. So Dimon and Jeromo going to be relatively equal on economy. One of them might be slightly ahead or behind in comparison, but this MiG actually going to be forcing this Tengu to die one way or the other. We'll do a little bit of splash there on that ore refinery, but this harvester getting locked down by tsunami tanks. One tsunami tank will be able to survive a little bit longer just because of that nano swarm or nano deflectors, but Honorable Discharge strikes once again, and that harvester actually being completely taken out. Dimon will restart the harvester, but he is a bit strapped for cash, is back up to that 2 refinery. Economy actually should be on 3 refineries now that that one in the water has finished. Harvester's going to be getting pulled away. There are a couple of strikers here to respond, which 2 of them will be able to push back this Tengu, or excuse me, this Twin Blade, and this Dox Core could be a little bit exposed. Actually, will take a huge amount of damage there. He got a full volley off with the missiles, and those strikers just were not in a good enough position to defend away and push that Twin Blades too far back. And wow, this is actually a $1,000 investment that he will get basically nothing out of as more missiles impact, and he just passes away that elite status. So I mean, good on Dimon sticking around at that little extra bit longer, getting the kill on the naval yard. And is it a huge, huge deal? No, but certainly that $1,000 investment that could have been, you know, an extra tsunami tank or basically an extra striker, an extra Tengu, you know, that investment could have been better used somewhere else. Hammer Tank's going to be forming up with Tank Buster support. Actually, I guess it kind of does come down to if these strikers are able to do anything in this battle, because the Hammer Tanks could end up winning out in the end, or if the Tank Busters are allowed to get a lot of damage and DPS out, then the Hammer Tanks could be absolutely shredded. Tsunami Tanks are going to be getting pushed in here, and if these strikers end up going down, Twin Blades could come in and wreck the rest of this army. As Hammer Tanks are going to be pushing forward, going for the crushes. One Tank Buster will be able to get targeting down on that Hammer Tank to eliminate it, and this Harvester will most likely be getting eliminated. But the strikers have been pushed completely back, and that means that he's going to be trading out, well, it looks like right now, 3 Tsunami Tanks for 1 Harvester. How much does the splash actually do to the refinery? Not quite enough to make it worth it when we're talking about trading out all 3 of those Tsunami Tanks, and the second rain of missiles should be just about enough to finish off this Tsunami Tank. And again, that's a lot of money down the drain for Jeromo. He is bleeding off quite a few units here. He needs to take these next couple of engagements carefully. The nice thing for him is that he doesn't have to deal with terror drones, at least not at the current moment. On the right side, one Tengu, ends up getting cleaned up there as it tries to transform to safety. The MiGs do get enough damage out to take it down, and it continues to be that 3 refinery play for our Empire Jeromo. And even the cutesy Twin Blade MiG combo is going to be heading down to the south side, going to be poking in. And I don't know if it'll actually be able to deal with this Defender Core. If he's really careful, he might be able to get enough missiles out if he dodges in and out. But either way, it's going to be pretty close. If he just sits there, Striker should be able to clean up those Twin Blades. But Hammer Tank's going to be pushing forward, forced to back up as both of these guys do not want to really settle with this engagement. However, little attack moves like this are nice, but again, adaptive armor can save that unit while the Twin Blades just deal with the Tsunami Tank. Absolutely no problem. Now that Terror Drones are mixed in, this army comp is going to become harder to deal with as the MCV gets some free crushes here. Tank Buster's getting some nice damage out, but as long as this MCV survives, it can get free repairs at the Crusher Crane. Although Jeromo is committing to killing this MCV, this could be the ticket that he needs. This could be the advantage that he needs to sort of steamroll. Oh, the MCV does survive. It does go down. However, that is of limited value just because Dimon is currently on that 4 refinery. He's up to tier 2 as well, and he has the infrastructure to support. Actually, wait a second. I forgot he has the Crusher Crane. So that's of even less value. He can still tech up to tier 3 if he wants. He could throw down a naval yard if he wanted, or additional racks if he needs more production facilities. The limits just are there for Dimon. He's pushing forward, able to target down a couple of these Tsunami Tanks, but ultimately he won't be able to crush this army. There's too many Tank Busters. There's too many Tsunami Tanks for him. However, these Twin Blades, I need to stop calling them Tangus. These Twin Blades pushing in, doing a bit of damage, are able to pull back out. And Jeromo continues to sit on this 3 refinery. He's just pumping the same unit types. He's not really trying to switch things up all that much. Dimon is going to be confirming, okay, you've got no 4th refinery there. He could potentially start checking other areas of the map just to double check that there's no expansions there. And this one heroic Twin Blade going to be putting out a fair amount of damage. And this may have been an overcommitment from our Empire play as Jeromo loses pretty much his entire army, isn't really going to be able to do all that much with it. And now Dimon has so much breathing room. Goodbye the MCV. The Harvester goes down as well, and down to just 2 refineries. But with the MCV cell, there's a nice cash influx for Jeromo. Over the next minute or 2, he needs to do critical, basically game-winning damage to Dimon. Not even the infantry will survive. The MiGs should be able to clean up this Striker. If it transforms, then the Hammer Tanks or the Twin Blades will finish it off. And actually, these Hammer Tanks being completely undefended will go down. There's no Bullfrogs, Flak Troopers, or MiGs in the vicinity to deal with it. And the MiGs, I'm not actually sure if they're even still around. They may have ended up going down somewhere in the earlier stages of this game. And if you open yourself up with huge gaps in the counter system, then yeah, this sort of stuff can happen. You can just get shredded by a couple of Strikers or a couple of Tangus. MiGs are now here on the defense, on the patrol for these units, and Hammer Tank's going to be pushing forward. Strikers won't be enough by themselves. He needs other units to really push back this attack because, again, transforming only does so much. Now the Hammer Tanks will have free reign, and with the Tesla Troopers sitting directly outside of this mecha bay, it's like getting your barracks camped by a bear. It's just no good will really come of it. Tengu's trying to get out air and trying to do some damage, but Strikers clean up all of the Twin Blades. He does still have to deal with the MiGs and the Hammer Tanks as the Bullfrog does end up going down, and these Terror Drones keep on spawning. The Tengu goes down, and that will do it as Dimon is going to be able to take the game. Jeromo will GG out and drop that last map in this series. Dimon will be, quote-unquote, advancing on. However, after this, Dimon left. So he was basically like, hey, guys, I gotta go, and then he just left before the grand finals. So what ended up happening was, even though Dimon won this series, Jeromo got seeded into the grand finals. However, we did not give him the 1-point advantage that the winner's bracket winner would have had. Now, if you haven't seen the loser's bracket finals, you can go check that out. The VOD will be available. And we'll head into the grand final to see who wins for the win number 30. This is Sybert signing out.